Did you always want to be the nightmare in the shadows? Always wanted to lure behind the enemies? Be invisible and then strike? Loki is the frame for you. Beat through Void Cascade and maybe troll your teammates a bit whenever they don't expect it. Loki is a great frame for every situation in Void Cascade and actually really helpful. You wonder why? I'm here to tell you exactly how to use him and how you can comfortably run him. The build. First things first, how to build Loki. I'm showing you one example of a build. Obviously, there are many options to build a frame. If you prefer a different one and a different playstyle and you're comfortable with that, great. Feel free to share your experience and give other people more ideas. Here's one example of a build. My main goal for Void Cascade runs is comfort. Nothing extravagant, just chill and loot. I will step by step explain why we are using the mods that you see. We are using Rolling Guard. Why are we having Rolling Guard even with Switch Teleport? Just in case violence nullifies us or we need that extra bit of safety. Rolling Guard grants us 3 seconds of invulnerability and removes all status effects. It will also help us in case we got shot and have to recharge our shield. We are using Vigilant Vigor and Fast Deflection for shield recharge. You're wondering why we are using shield recharge mods on a stealth frame? More to that in a little bit. For our energy economy, we are using Energy Nexus in combination with our Subsume Nourish. Energy Nexus usually regenerates 3 energy per second as long as there's no Janet ability active, but we are using it combined with Nourish. Nourish gives us an energy multiplier of round about 2.2 with a strength of 199%. If you don't like to use Energy Nexus, you could also use Equilibrium. Duration is a really important stat for this build, since our main focus is to stay invisible, so we are using Prime Continuity for moderation, same as Narrow-Minded. Narrow-Minded has a downside of negative range, but you don't care too much about negative range with Loki, since Switch Teleport is already comfortable radius as base range, and you most likely want to swap with an enemy that is close to you whenever you need the invulnerability for yourself. While with Nourish, technically it would not be too bad to have a bit more range to make sure you are hitting your teammates with the buff. But if you are focusing more on yourself, you don't care too much, or simply recast when they are close by. Blind Rage for ability strength. If you're wondering why Blind Rage over Precision Intensify, here's why. We don't want to have only strength for Nourish, but also for Switch Teleport. Ability strength on Switch Teleport grants you more movement speed, which allows you to move even faster through the tile sets, which is important if you want to have a fast run or if you run solo. If you don't care for that and you don't want to deal with negative efficiency, feel free to swap Blind Rage out with Precision Intensify. Safeguard Switch. This is the argument for Switch Teleport. Switch with an enemy for 3 seconds of invulnerability. Switch with an ally to give them 6 seconds of invulnerability. The switch also removes negative status effects on Loki and allies. So technically a second Rolling Guard. The duration of invulnerability is based off your modded duration, and you can recast it while it's still active. It is affected by casting speed. While you are invulnerable, you can still trigger Arcane Avenger if that is something you are interested in. Arcanes. For Arcanes on Loki, you have multiple options depending on what loadout you plan to choose. Arcane Crepuscular is a must on Loki since you want to stay invisible for the whole time. It grants you not only 30% ability strength, but also a 3 times final crit damage multiplier, which literally makes him the perfect weapon platform. Depending what your main weapon is for the loadout, choose the Arcane to boost your base damage. Choose Arcane Rage for primary damage, Arcane Fury for melee damage, and Arcane Precision for secondary damage. One other option you could choose is Arcane Arachne and make use of Loki's passive, which is increased wall edge duration. Arcane Arachne is 150% damage to primary and secondary weapons for 30 seconds on wall edge. Auras. For Aura, Loki has multiple options. Corrosive Projection is reducing the armor for all enemies in the mission by 18%. It stacks up additively when multiple teammates are running it. What does it mean for us if we are reducing the armor of an enemy? To make it simple, we are doing more damage to them. Why is that? Because we are lowering the damage reduction of the enemies from 90% to 81.5%. So that means we are doing 1.85 times more damage to them. Hold Stamped increases your weapon damage by 60% for 3 seconds on equip, which means whenever you swap weapons, you get a buff, which simply is nice when you swap a lot between primary, and your melee for AoE clear. Warframe Camaraderie is simply and straightforward. You gain 75% weak point critical chance, so whenever you hit a weak point, your crit chance is enhanced. Shield Recharge. Now to the question why we are running Shield Recharge on a stealth frame and is it a must. This is just in case you get hit. It is like a safety measure and you don't have to run it, especially since we do have Safeguard Switch and Rolling Guard and running a lot of duration. Without duration, a single swap guarantees us 13.7 seconds of invulnerability. You could also run an alternative catalyzing shield and Arga mods on your weapon or Arga message to have the shield recharge here, and the 1.33 seconds of invulnerability to react for either rolling guard or safeguard switch if you don't want to run double research or simply completely drop it. If you want to have more burst damage, you could also fit instead Vigorous Swap. Duration. How much duration is enough? How much do you need? The simple answer is how much you are comfortable with. Nourish is recastable, the invisibility not. So you are either using rolling guard or switch teleport when the invisibility runs out to have the invulnerability period to be safe before recasting. The cast of invisibility is not long, and with one yellow cast speed shard you don't have to worry about it. What type of Arkan shards? For Arkan shards we're using one Tauforge green for corrosive stacks. This will give us 98% armor strip. You will not see the armor strip when you hit an enemy. Their life bar will not turn red, since they're technically not fully armor stripped, just for your information. But it is enough. If you're not comfortable with this or you don't have a Tauforge green shard, opt out with 2 normal green shards. I am suggesting 1 Tauforge yellow Parker velocity and 1 Tauforge yellow casting speed. If you don't have the Tauforge, use normal ones. For the last 2 slots, I choose 2 red ability duration shards to even get more duration for my invisibility. If you feel like you don't need that and rather use it for something else, feel free to change that. Weapon loadout. For your weapon loadout, I'm giving you here one example. Obviously, there are hundreds of combinations that are possible and valid. I just want to show you what you want to pay attention to. In general, you want to have 1 AoE clear weapon, 1 primer, and 1 Thrax killing weapon. Primary. You're free to choose. Loki is a gun platform who, thanks to your choice of Arcanes and auras, is buffing you in the direction you need. My favorite weapon to run, and call me lame there, is the Burst and Prime and Arcanen. But besides that, all crit-based weapons are good on him thanks to Arcane Crepuscular. In addition, you are getting a crit buff from your companion with Tenacious Bond. The biggest benefit on a stealth frame is Spectral Serration. It increases the base damage of rifles while invisible by 330%. The farm is a bit annoying. It has a low drop chance from either Scaldor Dedicant or Scaldor Eradicator. We are using Galvanized Chamber for multi-shot, then Vital Sense and Critical Delay as a usual combination for crit chance and critical damage. The next mod is Hammer Shot. Hammer Shot gives you additional status chance and crit damage. If you don't have it and you favor Fire Rate, Gilded Truth is an option. I personally don't run Fire Rate since we're getting Fire Rate thanks to our companion via Reinforced Bond. Another option would be Galvanized Scope for more crit chance. We are running Infected Clip for Toxin and Stormbringer for Electricity, which combines to Corrosive. I personally prefer Corrosive over Viral, and we are getting Viral from Nourish in our setup. Our last mod is Hellfire for more heat, since the Arcanen already has heat to improve that stat. Once again, you can swap that out for Gilded Truth, your Riven if you have one, or Galvanized Scope. The position of your Riven always depends obviously on the stats of your Riven. If you have questions about your Riven, feel free to leave them in the comments. For Arcanes, I run Primary Deadhead, and thanks to Spectral Serration, you have no issues building your stacks up even if you lose them. Another comfortable option with a little bit less damage is Dexterity if you clear mostly with your melee weapon. Just to show you how much variety you have with Loki, I did a pure kit gun run with him. I will link you the video to that in the description and an A-Log run. The kit gun run was definitely an experience for itself, and if I'm being honest, I'm happy if I don't have to repeat that. Secondary. For secondaries, I choose a priming setup. The most popular ones are Epitaph Prime and Compressor Prime. Which one of these you like is up to you. I personally favor a secondary fortifier setup, simply because it gives you another layer of protection. Here's an example for an Epitaph build. Little reminder that for a pure primer build, we don't use galvanized mods, since we don't get the full benefit from them. I'm using Armor Gun Barrel Diffusion for the extra dodge speed. If you don't have it, you can use normal barrel diffusion. Lethal Turret for fire rate and multi-shot. Prime Fulmination for the extra explosion radius. Sure Shot for the status chance. With primer setups, you want to make sure to apply as many useful status effects on your enemy as needed, and with a guaranteed apply per shot if possible. Prime Conversion for electricity. Here you could also use Jolt as a 60-60, but I am using Prime 90 mod for more damage for secondary fortifier. Pistol Pestilence for toxin, and with Prime Conversion together, in total corrosive. Arga Seeker for status duration. This mod is a 2-in-1. On one hand, it helps you that the applied status effects on the enemies last longer, especially if you prime a lot of enemies at the same time. On the other hand, you gain the passive effect of the Arga mods. That spent energy is converted to your shield. This can help you in certain shield gate setups. We are using Magnetic Might for this magnetic status effect, which once again helps for secondary fortifier. We don't care too much for the critical damage in that case. Trick Mech is giving us more ammo maximum. Melee. One of the best options for stealth frames in my opinion are glaives, simply because you don't get too close to the enemies. My favorite type of glaive is the Falco. It is a corpus glaive you gain access from the dojo. It has innate electricity, which makes it perfect for a melee influence setup. I'm using Volte Quick Return, which is perfect for a detonation build. It is a mod that enhances the blast radius and gives you a 100% chance to explode on bounce. So you are throwing your glaive and on contact you're detonating it. We are using Sacrificial Steel for the crit chance. And here a little disclaimer. If you're willing to go all the way, you would also run Sacrificial Pressure for the set bonus, but for that you would need to use an Umbral Former. If you don't want to do that, be like me and use Prime Pressure Point. Killing Blow for melee damage for heavy attacks and heavy attack wind-up speed. Shocking Touch for more electricity damage. Yes, you do want to have more than just the innate electricity on your Falco. You're losing out on a lot of damage if you don't slot it. Galvanized Reflex for the heavy attack efficiency and the initial combo. This will help you to have your initial combo up whenever you detonate your Falco. Armor Gun, Organ Shatter for more crit damage and heavy attack wind-up speed. And Galvanized Elementalist for the status damage and the stacking status chance on kill. If you have a Riven, it depends which stats it has to see where to slot it. Mine, for example, has electricity on it, so I swap out Shocking Touch. If you feel like you don't need melee for the damage, another option would be a utility weapon. One example for that would be the Praetor's Incarnon, which improves our movement speed and our parkour velocity thanks to the Incarnon evolution, so we could even save a yellow parkour velocity shot. Sentinels. One of my favorite companions is the Panzerwolf Profiler. It has its own mod called Viral Quills, and thanks to that, it is decent at priming. It is not the most regular at priming, like a Deriga for example, but since it is a flash companion, it can carry the Resourceful Retriever mod at the same time. So all you little loot goblins, this is for you. Just a little info, don't use the Panzer Devolution mod, even if it sounds like a great idea. Panzer Devolution is a mod where the Panzer devolves into its lava form upon death and spits quills at enemies, dealing 60 viral damage each. It respawns into its true form after 30 seconds. The problem with this is that the lava is flying above your head and often is not invisible while you are. And since it is also attacking enemies, it is kinda snitching on you. We are running Calculated Redirection for the extra shield. You need this to get over 1200 shield to be able to use Reinforced Bond. We are using Reinforced Bond, which gives us an increased fire rate by 60%, and Tenacious Bond for the faster recovery and the extra crit damage. Here the little info, that only works if you have the mod Bite or Hunter Synergy. As already mentioned, we're using Resourceful Retriever for the extra loot. Feel free to swap this out with Prosperous Retriever if you need the extra credits. Viral Quills for the rival priming. Synth Deconstruct for the health orb drops, which gets triggered by Viral Quills even if you run Elusive Posture. Synth Deconstruct is technically for our Loki setup not needed since we're using Energy Nexus with Nourish and not Equilibrium. But this is more of a general pet setup that works really well for Loki. Momentous Bond for the extra elemental damage. Duplex Bond is here simply to pull aggro. It is not that you will have a lot of attention on you since you are invisible, but the enemies are busy chasing your companion. Just keep in mind, the clone spawned by Duplex Bond can't use any abilities. Animal Instinct is a personal preference, simply to have a better overview over the spawns and the loot on the minimap. And Fetch for the loot and the energy and health orbs. For the claws, I'm running the Elusive Posture mod, simply because I don't need my pet to actively attack and it is using the Viral Quills to trigger its ability. And with Elusive Posture, the chance for it to die is lower. In the end, the only mod that matters on the claw is Bite. If you don't have Bite and still want to run Tenacious Bond, this is an option, but you do have to check that you reach the needed crit chance. You can run Hunter Synergy. Hunter Synergy adds 30% of your primary crit chance to your pet's club. Check it if it's enough with your weapon and you're good to go. As additional information, I would suggest not to mod for Radiation. Radiation makes enemies shoot each other, which makes it more likely that you get shot by accident. If you want to see a nice build for a priming Deriga setup, feel free to check out my Valkyrie video. I will link it down below. But in the end, why is Loki such a good frame for Void Cascade? Loki fulfills a lot of criteria for Void Cascade. He has an easy way to survive, since he is a stealth frame. He buffs thanks to his subsume and his build weapons, which makes it easier to clear the task and kill Thoraxes. He can also make his teammates invulnerable for a short period of time if they struggle and need a little bit of support. In addition to that, depending on the amount of ability strength, you have a lot of movement speed whenever you switch teleport, which makes it easy to maneuver around the tileset. Let me know what you think about Loki. Have you tried him in Void Cascade? Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you on Twitch.